2010, I was one of 1.9 million people in this country that was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. What most people don't realize, that diabetes today is the #1 cause of death in this country. It'll kill more people than heart attacks, strokes. I'm telling you, it's not a good disease. But you know what? When I found out that I had diabetes, I made a couple phone calls. One of the first people I called was my wife to tell her our life was about to change. And she said, well, you know, it could be worse. It could be something a whole lot worse than diabetes. And the second call I made was to my sister Linda. She's a nurse, many years up in Indiana. And I said, sis, I don't know what just happened, but I went to the doctor today and I come out of there with a whole handful of prescriptions. She said, Darrell, what did they give you? And I said, metformin. They give me some kind of prescription for my cholesterol, my blood pressure's through the roof, all of this. And she said, Darrell, make me one promise. Make me one promise. Before you take any of that stuff, make me a promise that you'll throw away those Cokes, those Diet Cokes. I've been telling you for years, that stuff's killing you. You saw what that stuff does right up here. Well, that's what it was doing in my body. And I made a choice and a decision that day when she asked me to make her a promise. And I made that promise. I said, okay, I love them, but I'll throw them away. And I did. That's changed today. Okay? So here's what's happened. When you start down that journey and you start dealing with people and you start dealing with your health, they always, your doctor's going to tell you, none of this stuff works. Stay away from it. None of it works. But when I told my doctor I wanted to try and beat this disease naturally, she said, here's what I need you to do, Darrell. I need for you to be back here every 90 days so we can just keep a real close eye on you. We don't want you having a heart attack or stroke or something like that. So every 90 days I'd roll back into the doctor. They'd do blood work. A few days later I'd go back and sit down with the doctor. And she said, well, how much insulin did you take this time? None. Well, your numbers are pretty good. What are you doing now? Well, it's all natural products. Be back here in 90 days. So I'd roll back in there again 90 days later. Finally, about September 2011, she sets me down and she said, Darrell, your numbers are really pretty good and we need you to not come back here every 90 days. We need to reevaluate in about 6 months. That was in September 2011. February 2012, I went back to the doctor and the doctor said, we really need to talk. Well, it scared me to death because the last time we really needed to talk, they were telling me I had a lot of things going on. So I went back, I sat down with the doctor, and she'd come in with a file about that thick, and she said, Darrell, if I were looking at you today for the very first time, I would say with your A1C at 5.5 and your blood glucose at 110, I would have to say there's absolutely no diabetes here whatsoever. But because,
hey folks, hear that?
Yeah. But because I was diagnosed as a diabetic 18 months ago, she said, Darrell, I'm going to have to say today you're a diabetic without diabetes. That's phenomenal. Her challenge to me was this. Her challenge was, Darrell, you need to tell somebody. You need to tell everybody you come into contact with. You need to tell them exactly what you did, how you did it, because you have an opportunity to touch a lot of lives with what you're doing. That's what I'm doing. That's why I'm here. You know what? I had a grandbaby that was born August 28th last year, weighing 1 pound, 13 ounces. You think we didn't need a doctor? We needed doctors real bad. That baby's here in Tennessee with me this weekend. I'm here for you folks because you need to understand what you and why you're here. You know? You're here for a reason. You're going to touch somebody's life because you can go out of here and tell somebody, you know what? I met a man that was a diabetic today that's a diabetic without diabetes. And that's what we need to do. Folks, 230,000 people will die this year from this disease. There's 25.8 million diabetics in this country today. There's another 79 million pre-diabetics. Would you think we're not an epidemic state? It's over 100 million people out of 366 million people in this country alone that's diabetic or pre-diabetic. We got a huge opportunity to reach a lot of people. Somebody in this room is going to impact somebody's life. And what about those people that have their legs amputated because of complications due to diabetes? I had a friend that just happened to. I shared this with him a little over a year ago. He said,
I've got to talk to my doctor. My doctor said, he comes back a few days later to work, and he said, my doctor says, stay away from that stuff. None of it works. But you know what? I ran into him about a year later. He's in a wheelchair rolled up under a table. I walked in and I said, man, what'd you do? Fall down and break your leg? He goes, no. And he rolls back and he lifts the stump of a leg, and he said they amputated my leg due to complications due to diabetes. Folks, this is not a good disease. They do that all the time. 60% of the amputations in this country today are due to complications due to diabetes. 25% of the people that's on kidney dialysis due to complications due to diabetes. Folks, there are some side effects. You look at the side effects of the drugs that they put us on, oh my gosh, metformin. We talked about the side effects. This little girl, all the stuff that they had her on, well, the same thing. They'll tell you right on the label, there's side effects to the things that they put you on, like metformin. It says nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, occasional constipation, and in some cases causes death. There's a drug I want to be on long term. Okay? The statin drugs that they put us on for cholesterol, same kind of side effects, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, occasional constipation, but in some cases may cause cancer. There's another drug I want to be on long term. Folks, you have an opportunity to go out of here and tell somebody. And shame on you. Shame on you. If you don't tell somebody about this company and what it's doing for people, it's literally changing lives. You have an opportunity to reach a lot of lives. And I tell you what, I'm all about helping to change the health of a generation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Darrell. Folks, we're going to end the session.